Hey everyone, welcome to Daily Revelations. Thanks for joining me today. So I was in Exodus 14 this morning. Well, Exodus 13 through 15, but 14 is where I'm going to settle today, as I do every day. We're going through the Bible from Genesis on and seeing where God takes us every day and the lessons he has to teach. So Exodus 14 is the story of the Red Sea. Basically, everybody, even that isn't a Christian, knows this story. The Ten Commandments, the movie, Moses holding up his hands, the parting of the water. There's other things to this story, though, that aren't often mentioned in our Bible stories that we share or in movies about what God was doing in this and how he is not about taking us from one place to the other by the most direct route, like Google Maps is. And sometimes that frustrates me when I put in my thing and I'm thinking, I would really like to kind of go this way, and then Google just keeps sending me the quickest way because it doesn't understand my purposes. And the same thing is true with God. He has other purposes for our journey other than getting us from point A to point B. And we need to be okay with that. So what God revealed to Moses in this chapter is that I understand that the promised land is where I told you I'm taking you, but what's going on in that land right now is a lot of war, and you are exhausted. You have just been released out of captivity. All these people are kind of not working together. You just basically have uplifted your homes and have left. And going into war is not the best solution. So I'm going to do something else. And this is what God does. His plan that's going to take them on a very crazy route to their destination is actually the best plan and the best route. So what happens is that they get led to a spot that in the end they go to, and then they go back. So it looks like, to those that are looking as Pharaoh was watching, that they had no idea what they were doing. And they were easy prey, as far as Pharaoh thought. And so God was actually setting up a trap in that process to bring Pharaoh out and to finally defeat him. The other thing that God was doing was there were these nations that had heard through the grapevine this group of rebels, slaves to the Egyptians, have escaped. They have outwitted the great Egyptians, and they are on their way here. They didn't have a name for themselves. They were slaves. And so these other nations were thinking, we're battling with one another. What's another group to defeat? So they were looked at as lowly people that really had no purpose and could be defeated easily. So God took care of both of those things through the process of making them wander, and then the parting of the Red Sea, and finally defeating Pharaoh and all his army by covering them with the sea. And also, word went out to all those other nations who had witnesses that saw this event happening, that they may be Egyptian slaves, as we call them, but their God is fighting for them. And so God had a purpose in taking the long route. And oftentimes in our lives, we wonder, why can't I just get from point A to point B and just be done with it? It's good enough to get there. Well, in God's eyes, it's not. He wants to accomplish his purposes on that path. And the only way we can do that is if we follow that meandering path by following him. He says, follow me. not follow the most direct route and get to the end destination where you can rest. No, he gives us resting places along the way. And it's so good. At the end of the next chapter, chapter 15, God finally brings them to a place where there's multiple springs and 70 date trees, it says. And it was an oasis. And God does that in our lives. He gives us places where we have to just be strong and follow him and hold on tight. And then are those places where we have that valley where we can rest and just take in all that he is doing in our lives. But it doesn't stop. It doesn't have our starting place is when life began. Our ending place is when he takes us home. The journey from one destination to the other is not a race. It's a path to follow. And it's one that we have to embrace with joy every day for what God gives us in it. Because that is where the battles are being defeated. That is where the lessons are being learned. That is where God is present and where he asks us to join him. So hope that's an encouragement for you today. Have just an awesome day today. Thanks for joining me on Daily Revelations. And I will see you again tomorrow and share with you whatever I have to share.